So there's just no better time, no better opportunity to start using these principles that we're going to talk about today than right now. So this is session 3 or class 3, September the 13th, and the title of today's session is, thank you very much by the way, Mark, The Spacious Present and the Point of Power. And this is the way Seth put it: you must demand more of yourself than you ever have before. This material is not for those who would deceive themselves with pretty, packaged, ribbon truths that are parceled out and cut apart so that you can digest them. That sort of material serves a need, but this material demands that you intellectually and intuitively expand. And what you're expanding into is your multidimensionality. And to put it in perspective, in the next life, you will be working with those attitudes that are now yours. So the ones that we take care of now, we don't got to take care of later. This is very powerful. And what I'm trying to do with each and every class is there's something called the official line of consciousness. Now, I have a favor to ask of you. Today, I would like you to interrupt me and ask for clarification of any term that you don't understand. And let's just stop, take the time to explore that before we move on. Because it's really hard to stay attentive and grasp this material unless you can understand what went before. So the official line of consciousness is linear time, physical reality, and one dimension. So everything I'm doing is trying to create cracks in that. I'm trying to get you to tune into the parts of yourself that are multidimensional, because you're multidimensional right now. Some of you may experience that with loved ones that have passed over, your intuitive abilities, and you should see that they're ramping up quite a bit just in the last few years. That you think something and your partner says it, or your partner thinks something and you say it, but so fast that you blink your eyes. I just thought that, and Reva's saying, would you please clean that up? No. And I especially see it in my dreams, because as soon as I start thinking about something and I get a little nudge from, she says, why don't you dream about that? And invariably I'll have a dream about it that'll take me to a deeper understanding. So a lot is going on. We're getting a lot of information continuously. So the key here is to embrace your power and embrace your magnificence. And your number one priority is to love yourself, far and away. Because as you love yourself, you're putting yourself in a direct connection with your inner spirit. Now, I went over an exercise in the first session where I talked about, if you're talking to another person and you're not happy with the conversation, you can listen with one ear and inside yourself just start loving yourself in a big way. And watch what happens with them. It's really quite amazing. A young lady taught me that technique. She was in her 40s. Her partner was around 60 and she had 4 kids. And he loved her very much, but he was having a little bit of trouble adapting to the kids, especially the 2 teenage boys that were a little older. And when he would start talking about that, she would just take a breath, go inside herself, start loving herself even more, and he would talk himself right out of it. She never even had to say a word to him. Did not have to say a word. So, this ability to love yourself is a keystone, because when you start loving yourself, you can start loving others. Until you love yourself, it's hard to love others. And here's the good news and the bad news. Every single problem you have with anything, with anybody, always comes back to loving yourself. It will always come back to loving yourself, because when you are able to love yourself, you make yourself whole. And that's what our reality is doing. It's reflecting us back to us, not as a lesson. It's reflecting us back to us in your all that isness, because it's just showing us what we're creating. And so when you're able to dig into that, be still and know. When you're able to be quiet, don't ask another person, don't go to a book, go within yourself, be still, be quiet, and wait till you get intuitive insights. And then at that point, begin to explore it further. Now, last week, I explained how this reality is created. Every last thing in physical reality is an illusion. It's a picture of the energy in Framework 2. So Framework 1 is physical reality. Framework 2 is non-physical reality. That's our souls. That's where literally the energetic consciousness presence is of everything that's here, because everything is conscious. Every atom is conscious. There is nothing that isn't part of all that isn't conscious. And what happens is, this reality, according to quantum mechanics, now there's a problem with this comparison I'm doing, and the problem is this. Seth warns against this. He says, be careful drawing these comparisons, because the things we're talking about are multidimensional, and the science that I'm quoting is not. But quantum mechanics explains that countless times a second this reality is created from the 0 point. And that means that there's nothing stored here. So we don't have anything in our body or in this physical world that's stopping us from turning our focus to what we want and then creating that. Now, I want to try and explain how this translates out into time and then value fulfillment. So we've got a couple big leaps here. So there's no time, there's no space, but what there is and what we equate to time is expansion. So this is what I want you to think of. Pretend that I have a large marble jar here, a large jar filled with large marbles. And that we would call physical reality. And then I'm going to take that same jar, which is all that is, which is what we call time, and now I'm going to pour in smaller marbles. And I'm going to fill that jar up to the top all over again, and there's plenty of space in there for the small marbles. That's higher vibration. So as we raise our vibration, we raise our awareness of what's in our world to a much greater degree. Small changes in your vibrational level lead to big perception differences in the way you view the world. You start to view it more lovingly. You start to view it with connection to more beauty. You start to see the connectedness of the world. Now let's take that same jar, and we've got big marbles and we've got little marbles. And now I want you to fill it with sand and fill it all the way up to the top. So now we've got something even smaller going in that jar. And the vibration, whenever your vibration raises, what happens is your vibration actually gets smaller. And it results in a huge expansion of what is. And as you become more perceptive, now maybe you're waking up in your dreams. Now maybe you're communicating with your plants. Now maybe you're in sync with your pets or animals. Now maybe you have a deeper sense of feeling or compassion for others in the world. And now, let's take that same jar and let's fill it with water. Water, of course, is symbolic of spirit. So let's fill that jar right to the top with the big marbles, the little marbles, the sand, with water. And of course, the water is composed of molecules that are infinitesimally small. And it's the same thing. Each one of these is a step up in vibration, a step up in connection with all that isness, a step up in your ability to perceive multidimensionality. So now, instead of seeing things from the perspective of, say, think of a small child, and the small child sees the world from their perspective. And then as they grow up, they start to see it from the perspective of their family. And as they grow older, they start to see it from the perspective of their socialization. And as they grow older, then they start to see it from the perspective of their education. And it goes on and on like that. And each one of those is an expansion in that person. And that's exactly what we're talking here. Every day that you're alive, you're expanding. So, each one of these expansions leads to value fulfillment. And let's make value fulfillment simple. Value fulfillment is alignment with love. That's what we know that all that is, isn't it? Do we know that all that is something besides love? No, we don't, do we? That's because that's what all that is. So as you align yourself with love within yourself in a feeling way, as you get more and more in sync with that, you're getting more and more in sync with all that is, and you're getting more and more in sync with the bigger world. A world that's caring, compassionate, loving. Even the ambulance agrees. So, sorry about that. Now, one of the things that's going on, so does anybody have any questions about that? You know, I've been doing this pretty intensely for 45 years with all my heart and great joy, and it's brought me an incredible amount of success. Just look at, I'm with Reba. That's like the pinnacle, isn't it? So it's easy for me to move on, and I just want to take a second. Does anybody have a question about the explanation I tried to make about why there is no time, but there is value fulfillment? And I'm going to expand on that a little later, because time is our ally when you view it from the perspective of value fulfillment. And when you give up the official line of consciousness about aging, time becomes a huge ally, because it's not time, it's expansion into who you are in alignment with your inner spirit, which what? Well, that makes you younger. It doesn't make you older. Yes, Mark?
Do you want this on?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, why don't you turn that on? Oh, yeah, let me turn this off. Thank you. I never turned mine on.
So the question is, if you love yourself, how do you know you love yourself enough? And if you're not loving yourself, where is it that you need to continue loving yourself to come to the place of getting all that is? I'm turning it off.
Okay. Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question, Mark. It's really quite brilliant. Oh, why don't I turn mine on? So that's really quite brilliant. And this is the way it works. And it's a little bit ironic, because there's two pieces I want to focus on here. And the first one is fun or joy. So, we go through a life in a journey. We never get it done, and we cannot get it wrong. So because life is a journey, there's no end point. We don't get to an end point, and all of us have got to end points, and when we did, and we expected to be overjoyed, and maybe we were when we got the shiny new car for half a day, but then the next day you have to put gas in it and you have to start the maintenance. And the same thing, now you've got a degree and you're overjoyed, but now you have to get a job. It's not the end point. It's the journey. So the number one thing to do is make sure that you set an intention, whatever it is that you're doing, that you bring joy to that. It's a decision on your part. I'm going to find ways to enjoy this. I'm going to find ways to be happy. And when you do, it's going to change. What did our brilliant friend that looked like me, Wayne Dyer say? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So when you start finding ways, develop, cultivate the skills, set intentions to find ways to enjoy the people, the things, the places, the jobs, whatever it is that you're doing. Because we're not going to get someplace and then all of a sudden, because we got there, it's going to make the whole journey worthwhile. No. You're always going to look back and say, oh, that was a pain in the butt. Oh, I never did like school, and now that I'm done with it, okay, I'm on with my life, and maybe I'm happy and successful, but when you look back on it, you're still going, boy, that wasn't a very enjoyable experience. Unless you're me. I love school. I was drunk on it. It was a real passion of mine. That's why I kept going forever. So that's number one. Find ways to be joyful in your daily life, and then you will find yourself connecting with. In doing that, you have to put yourself first, and you have to be loving and appreciative of yourself. And the second thing is, you can't be doing this to fix yourself. You know, go to a therapist, and then go to another therapist, and then go to this class that's going to excise my sins, or, I'm going to get this or that. I'm not saying don't do those things for the purpose of joy and expansion, but don't do those things because you're going to fix yourself, because in the process of fixing yourself, in your all that isness, you're now creating a never-ending cycle of fixing yourself. That's what you're focused on. So if you're focused on the joy, you get connection. If you're focused on fixing yourself, you're going to be in an endless cycle of fixing yourself. Whatever you focus on, that's what you get. So thank you for that question, Mark. Any other questions? Yes, Joe. And I'll learn.
Since I'm trying to catch up with the terminology that you're using, I have just a couple of maybe very basic questions. The alignment that takes place within, what is it that you believe we're aligning to? I know that you've made reference to
who you are. I'm sorry.
Let him. Go ahead.
Go on.
Okay.
I just blurted out.
I know that you talk about all that is, and normally, if I were talking about all that is, I'd use the G-O-D word.
That's fine with me.
Yeah. But anyway, in my own personal experience, in alignment within myself, is that I believe that the presence of God does live within each of us. And the alignment is my spirit surrendering or yielding to the presence of God within. And in that union then, you express your trueness, you express your true self. And so my task every day is to align myself with that presence so that I can fully be the person that God has designed me to be. If that makes sense to you.
Well, that's a beautiful and perfect description of alignment. If you'll turn that mic off. There we go. Yeah, that's a beautiful and perfect description of alignment. And I love the fact that you brought in surrender, because that's a huge part of our multidimensionality. We are, in our official line of consciousness, we try and logic every last detail. As a maintenance manager, I did it to the nth degree. I was a fabulous maintenance manager, and I had a system for everything. I had every kind of predictive maintenance you can imagine. So, but the thing of it is that how many people experienced that the storm went right where they said it was going to go? Oh, wow. Well, that's pretty awesome. But Reba and I had a way different experience. We went, man, they just can't get this right to save their souls, you know. First it's going here, then it's going there, then it's going up here, then it's 1, and then it's 3, and then it's 4, and then it's tropical storm, tropical, and so on. And that is my experience of life. That the computer models are based on what? They're based on time. They're based on history. They're based on repetition. So they're actually based on something that doesn't even exist. The reason we get the results we get is because we believe that. If we didn't believe it, we wouldn't get it. Now, Reba and I don't particularly believe in it, so we didn't get it. But maybe you work with computers a lot, modeling and statistics, and you go, wow, that's fantastic. And all of a sudden, you get what you see, what you expect to see. My point is that these things are bigger than us logically, bigger than us in the official line of consciousness. And the way you get there is surrender. That's absolutely right. You have to surrender to your connection to your spirit and follow your intuition, your inspiration, your nudges, your impulses. And when you do that in a categorical, organized, systematic way, then you can start to trust. Trust all that is, and then trust yourself. And that's the secret. When you can trust, then you can walk across the Red Sea, or you can, go out into the desert to get to the promised land. Which didn't turn out to be that good a party, but but the idea is that, they got manna every day. And all that is does the same thing for us if we believe that. If we believe that all that is going to provide for us, then that's what we get.
I did want to add something to what I said. In this relationship of aligning yourself with the divine within, do I need this?
Yeah.
It goes along.
Yeah, Pierre will kick my butt if we don't use that. Thankfully, thank you, Pierre.
In this alignment that we've described and the surrendering to this divine within us, in that moment or moments that surrendering takes place, you actually can, it's been my experience, you can feel the energy of that union.
Amen.
With the divine and your own spirit in that relationship. And in that moment, or moments, I've learned to identify that I am divine in those moments when I'm joined with the divinity within myself. And so, that being the case in terms of the storm, in that divinity, in that connection, I spoke as a son, because we are sons or daughters of God in that union. And I said in a declarative statement to Irma to move northeast, so that we'd not pound the western coast of Florida. So I held on to that, and I could feel the energy within myself. It's an interesting thing that when you make a declarative statement in union with the Spirit, you can feel the energy stay there. But the moment you make a statement that's not complicit or in union with the divine, the energy goes away.
Yeah.
So you have to have that sensitivity within you to feel the energy, make a declarative statement that stands, because the energy continues to stand within you. I wanted to add that comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I say something?
Please, Mark.
So one of the things that you said brought up a thought in my mind. And so many thoughts are what I call aberrated thoughts that just exist in the cosmos. And the thing that I forget, and I think most people don't realize, is that we're these huge antennas that receive and broadcast all the time. And so unless you have the discernment to know that you're receiving that some aberrated thoughts form and let it go, what happens to me sometimes, because it latches onto something in my past, then I latch on it to again as it's mine, and it really isn't. It's just part of the collective consciousness that's out there in the cosmos that still has a residence within my own being that I attach to. And so by having discernment and realizing that, it's easier to let go.
I want to respond.
Okay.
So we're filled with inspiration. Wow.
I recognize within myself that there's a conflict within myself, or can be if I allow it to be. And that is the direction my brain is telling me, those thoughts that come from here, saying to do this or that. I mean, the brain is a wonderful instrument in terms of maintaining body temperature, heart rate, and so forth and so on. But it does want to do one other thing, that it wants to tell me how to live my life. And so this is where surrendering to the presence within, you have to recognize when you do buy into what you hear up here, you're surrendering there as well. It's a question then, which resource will you surrender to? The divinity within, or your own flesh in terms of how you live your life?
Turn it off.
Turn it off. Okay.
There you go. Carry.
So, we covered a lot of territory there. So I'm a subscriber to virtually everything that's been said so far. Let me offer another perspective as well. And that is that all that is everything, including every probable reality. So there's a reality just as real as ours, where Irma went up the west coast, where Irma went up the east coast. Every probability exists. So, complete, with people in it, the people that you know, because they're multidimensional. They're there too, exploring that. So, Mark talked about a connection, and we actually get together at night and decide the play that we're going to have the next day and the props we put in it, the people, the things, the situations that will fuel our expansion, our value fulfillment. Now, when you're focused on something, your focus, because you're constantly flowing energy, will carry you to that probability that you're in alignment with. So when you're in alignment with the storm, because you know your values, storm turning and going up the center of the state, your alignment literally carries you to that reality. Because they all exist. They're all real. They're all just as real as this one. And you can, and in the advanced, or the coming classes, I'll go over some of that in more detail and explain that you can actually tap into that. There's nothing that's not known or not knowable to you. And in terms of the discernment between what's coming from your spirit and what's coming from your ego, for instance. Remember, every thought you get comes from all that is directly. Your brain does not think. So when you have the thoughts, they're a reflection. When you wake up and realize that the focus that you take is going to determine the thoughts and the reality that you live in, that you get, you're in a different world. But when you don't, you're just going to continue to get what is, whatever it is that you believe. You're going to continue to be fed the same thing that you've been fed before, because that's your vibration. It's not anything in terms of a lesson or anything malicious or even karma. It's just who you are, and that's how you're creating your world. But your feelings will always tell you the direction to go. Good feels good and bad feels bad. It ain't rocket science. It's really straightforward. So when you get that feeling, you can pursue it. Now, the place to pursue it is in your mind and not in physical reality. So say you like to drive your car fast, think about that in your mind first before you do something like that. And also think about driving your car at a reasonable rate of speed. Being conscious of your other drivers. In fact, think how wonderful it feels to drive your car and go, ooh, they may not know that this lane ends. I'm going to make a space for them. Ooh, that driver pulled in front of me perfectly. We're both still going 60 miles an hour, but there's no problem. I'm happy with the job they're doing, and I'm just going to back off here a little, and we'll both continue to go. So think about the actions you're going to take. Explore them in your mind, because they'll tell you your future. Now, what happens when you get to the other side and there's no time? Well, one of the things that happens is you see the future. Now, the future is not set. What you see is the future based on your beliefs at that time. And it's a range. But you can see, is this war thing going to work out? Or is this love thing going to work out? Not bad. So you can tell what the future is when you get to the other side. Now, one of the things that makes our reality so exciting is we don't see over the hill. So every day is sort of an excitement for us, especially with the delay in the manifestation in this reality. So remember, you're multidimensional. You can work outside of the physical dimension. You can work in your mind, exploring your options, and pay attention to your feelings. And the last thing I'll end with is train your ego. Your ego is trying to protect you. Your ego has, our ego as a culture, as a society, as a species, has gotten way overdeveloped. And that wasn't anticipated. But there's an extremely good reason for it. We come in here and intentionally cut ourselves off from all that is. And so the ego is now trying to protect us. And it's doing its job in spades, but it's never stopped doing its job from the days when you had to be worried about being eaten by an animal or falling off a cliff. And not that many things in your day fall into that category. And you can say, I'm going to see Mary Lou today. And that's going to be a really exciting, uplifting experience. And I don't need any protection, ego. You can take off. Mary Lou and I have got this covered. Talk to your ego and start telling it it can take off. It can take a rest. You don't need to worry. There's nothing here to worry about. And all of a sudden, part of that voice that was trying to protect you will start to take off. And talk to your ego in a positive way. Say, hey, listen, there's a lot in this for both of us. Because when I start tapping into my all that isness, when I start tapping into this multidimensionality, I'm going to get inspiration, intuition that's going to tell me when to buy this stock, not to buy that house, buy this car, ask this person if they would like coffee, or today's the day to go to Walmart and get a new shirt, or whatever it might be. Every day turns out to be that day for me. Well, you can tell I'm a fashion plate. Look at this purple. You know? But you don't just find a purple shirt in your size at Walmart. You have to keep looking. You know? Well, that's work. You can follow your intuition and just go, well, today I'll check. And when you do that, and Reba and I are really constantly, completely amazed. Now, at how well that works. Now, I want to, I've got a hammer here. I'd like to have a sledgehammer and go after this official line of consciousness. So I'm going to take a second here and talk about what we call history. And have you noticed how history changes over time? So we think we know history, but all you have to do is read books and listen to book TV, and all of a sudden they're always finding something new about history. They're finding some new prehistoric animal. They're finding some nuance or some document that hasn't been discovered and is now discovered and gives us an entirely new perspective of history. And if you're in the unfortunate position of being a lawyer or policeman, wow, history is a gigantic wild card, because you depose people, you get the facts, they get on the stand and they go, yeah, I've thought about it, it really wasn't that way. This is the way it actually was. Why? Because history constantly changes. Because we change. We change history. Our history changes. And we change the past from our now. From our perspective, as we grow in value fulfillment, as we raise our vibration, as we get more in alignment with love, we start to seed the past with things that support that. And then all of a sudden, you start hearing about something like all these things that Mary Lou has been to all over the world. You know, you go to them, they're a revelation, damning her, or...
Damning her.
Thank you. So, but it's not just that place. There's places all over the world. So my point is this. It's not fixed. And it's not even fixed in you, because every time you go back to it, it changes. And one really frustrating thing is that Reba and I have discovered, we read a book, we're conscientious about it. Here's what I'm talking about on Sunday, the individual and the nature of mass events. So I'm going to explain the storm and hurricanes and tsunamis and typhoons and earthquakes and plagues and things like that. I'm super excited about Sunday. Thank you, Mary Lou, for the opportunity to talk about that. And then here's Seth. Here's the Seth book, The Nature of Personal Reality. They're both Seth books. And you can see I've got indexes and all little flags, and everything is colored and highlighted. And this is probably the third one I've done, and I'm not counting the 20 or so I gave away. So,
More than some people's Bibles, huh?
yeah, exactly. So every time I go back to this, it's different. It's really frustrating. Every single time I go back to it, it's different. This is what I'm starting to learn, and I'm not a quick study. And it's this. You don't really need to go back to the book.
The book's in you.
The book's in you.
Yeah.
So just find the time to be quiet and connect with yourself and your inner spirit, and you'll get the information you need. I mean, I sit down in the morning and I give myself, well, I get so excited about doing this. I probably take way more time than I need. You know, I'll take 4 or 5 or 6 hours to do this presentation. But I can crank them out in an hour. When I'm doing 20 minutes at GTS, when I first started, I was shocked. I thought, I'll prepare in advance. I wrote a presentation every day. And then I got up on Saturday and squashed them all together and wrote another one and then went in and did it. Because once you start, it's like learning to tune your radio. Once you learn where the station is you like on that dial, you can tune into it easier and easier. So, to go back to a point that Mark made about getting together as a group, you know, connecting to the socialness of who we are, and creating our reality. The reason we're here and we're having so much fun in this playground is we as a group have decided to be here. We literally have created the thought forms that we use, and they're very close to us, so that we have easy access to them. They're called buildings, roads, things like that. Same thing with people. They're called energy gestalts. They form every instant, every one of those countless instants that the world recreates itself. We're the center. And it actually manipulates all those ideas, all those energetic pattern libraries called energy gestalts, oriented to us. It's focused on us so that we have what we need at our fingertips to function in this multidimensional reality that we're squashing down into one dimension. And when we get together at night and decide on what it is we're doing, so you hear me talk about an energy transition. And so some people will make the leap in this lifetime. If they don't make it, they're not left behind. When they wake up in their next life, they'll be directly connected to all that is. They'll see their Akash, in other words, their other lives, and they'll know what's going on and know what they're doing. Nobody's left behind, on the one hand. On the other hand, they may not make it in this lifetime. You know, they're pretty happy with what they're going. Say they're a doctor, they've been trained in medicine or law, and they're just going to keep doing it. No matter what happens, they really believe in that viewpoint. Well, for one thing, they do it all day, every day, so now they're going to, they believe that a lot of bad things happen from intuition and things that happened in the past, especially the Middle Ages, where I'll get some frog and I'll get some lizard and I'll get some bat blood and I'll mix it all up and see if I can grow hair. And so they know that that is not the way to go. They know that they have to do it based on repeatability. And that has really carried us a long way. Except that the energy is getting so high now that that old official line of consciousness does not serve. And that's going to become, that's a timeline. So the people that are making the jump into greater alignment with their spirit are on one train. And the people that are not making the jump, they meet with their group at night and they're on another train. And as time goes, these trains diverge, and it gets harder and harder to make the jump. And people don't want to make the jump. It's too much work. Looking at your feelings, having to revise your, I know about that person over there. I know about these people in my family. I know about that political system. I know that there's going to be storms and tornadoes and whatever, but there's not. As you raise your vibration, this stuff starts to go away. The world physically becomes a calmer place because you're more of alignment with that energy. Now, I want to end with one last thing. I've still got my hammer out. So, what we've got is logical, physical, official line of consciousness versus magical or miraculous. And because it's magical or miraculous, and we're the magician, we have the wand, when you turn your focus to what you want, you become the creator of that. Now, the next area I want to cover is food. Something near and dear to my heart. Reva's a gourmet cook, and I eat like a king. So, for instance, people have stories. We really have a lot of stories. In fact, the stories are really quite remarkable. But the fact of the matter is that each instant it's created new. So when you go to the grocery store, instant by instant, those things are getting put on the shelf. They don't grow up on the farm, go through processing, and then you buy them and take them home. No, you create them instant by instant. So if you believe that animals are quote unquote being slaughtered and abused, for God's sake, don't be eating meat or fish or whatever it is that you believe, because you have to honor your beliefs, whatever it is. On the other hand, if you believe that you're creating the food and putting it on the shelf instant by instant, does that hold any negative connotation to you?
No.
No. There's nothing in physical reality that has any power whatsoever. Any power that it has is the power we give it through our beliefs. Call Mom. Is the power that we give it through our beliefs. So pay attention to what you believe. If you believe something is good, get on that horse and ride it. Use it. It's a tool. And if you believe something's bad, well, you need to honor that too. And if it's intruding in your life and making you feel bad as well, you need to look at that. Because it'll never stop growing. Because you'll never stop flowing energy, and you'll never stop flowing more and more energy. So, if you believe in blue-green algae, wow, eat blue-green algae. And if you believe in whatever it is that you believe in, if you believe in organic food, and look, be reasonable. You've been taught this your whole life. Honor your beliefs. Don't be like me and fight them. I'm pretty obstreperous. In other words, I want to have a fight. I don't want to believe this. One of my favorite places in the world is McDonald's. I worked for Coca-Cola. I like Coke. And every time I ever worked with a trainer, which was a lot, they told me that soda was poison practically every day. And of course, I did work for Coke. They are paying my retirement. But they couldn't control themselves. They're going, it's really, here's the study that tells you that soda makes people unhealthy. And I'm going, Jesus, okay. You don't have to tell me every time. I got it the first time. Let's just let that go. And let me see if I can. But if you're in an environment where you're being told something forcefully, continuously, there's something there. And the reason there's something there is whatever's there is something you created. So when you get those messages back from your environment, it's something you're telling yourself. So pay attention. Pay attention to what's showing up. Okay. So we've covered a lot of territory. Now we're going to get to Eckhart Tolle, our beloved Eckhart Tolle, the power of now. And this is the way Seth put it. There's only one point of power, and that's the present. It's exactly the same as Eckhart. Only one point of power. And from that point of power, that's where we change our past and our future. Both. One point of power, and that's now. The power of now. So, because each instant is a completely clean slate, if you have the discipline and the focus, so there's a couple pieces that go with that. The first one is, it should be chiseled in granite. You get what you focus on. There is no other main rule. You get what you're all that is. You constantly flow energy. Wherever you put your focus, that's what you're creating. End of story. Beginning and end. And the second part is, you get what you believe. Turns out what we focus on is what we believe. In fact, all that's here is energy. It's not physical. The consciousness, the clothes that we put on, we're way more than consciousness. The clothes that we put on to enter into this reality can allow us to see a very narrow energetic spectrum as physical. And it's not. So that in each moment, it's extremely fluid. This is a different way to look at reality. See things and people as a waterfall of energy. Just see being, so the picture that we see is being recreated countless times a second. It's just a picture. It's static, just like in a frame of film going through a movie projector. It's a static picture. It has no power whatsoever. The only meaning that picture has is the meaning that we're giving it. So, if we're not happy in the moment, in the point of power, then if you've done your homework and you've said to yourself, roughly 10,000 times a day, what do I want? Then you know the direction to turn your focus. Now you can change it 10,000 times a second. That's not a problem. But when you turn your focus there, every time you turn your focus there, you're going to learn. The universe is lining up all its energy to support you, and you're going to have insights and intuition that tell you if that's the direction you should go or not. So it's about making a decision, driving a stake in the ground. You can't make too many decisions. So make a decision, drive a stake in the ground, and start to learn how to use your power. Because the way you're using your power is based on where you're turning your focus. Any questions? Any questions? Yes, Eric. Let me turn this off. Thank you.
You had said something about energy dissult.
Energy, thank you. It's a Gestalt. It's a German word, Gestalt.
Okay, gestalt.
Yeah, and it means like aggregation. And in the way that I'm speaking about it, it's very loose. Because as each instant you change the energy gestalt, the library of vibrational patterns also changes to be in alignment with you. But when you have thoughts, they go out and align with other like thoughts. And they form like a library of vibrational patterns or thought forms that you access, like breathing in and out, based on where you're at in terms of your vibration, which is based on your feeling, which is based on your beliefs. Bless you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Great question. Paul, you have a question?
A story of what I went through with the hurricane. It's just so in line with what you've been talking about, but I'll wait until the end
Okay.
because it's not a question.
So, the next thing I want to talk about is a huge paradox. So, paradox in our life is one of the most wonderful gifts we get, because we're going, everybody exists in their own bubble, and there's no overlap. So in other words, we each exist in our own world, and as a result of that, nobody gets hurt other than you. The people that are in your life are all that is, they're infinite, and the portion of themselves that they put in your life for that instant is the portion that is following your script. So we can see the brilliance of all that is in the way she designed this system. Nobody gets hurt, even though it seems like horrific things are constantly happening, wars and hurricanes and tsunamis, but it's all just in our bubble. And yet the way that that is sustained is through vast amounts of cooperation. So we get together at night and decide on the props that we're going to put in our play the next day. And even during the day, when we're talking and communicating with each other, we have almost infinite telepathic communication going on at other levels so that we can reach agreements. So it's a real paradox. In one sense, we're alone, and in another sense, we're completely supported and integrated with others in our life. It's really quite astounding. And the first lesson is, this is 1960, Edgar Casey. The first lesson is cooperation. I'll never forget when I read that. My world literally turned on its ear. And I was trying to survive. My wife had cancer. We had a new baby. I was working at a steel mill. And I'm sitting at a traffic light going, wow, cooperation. And my life changed in that instant in a huge, profound, and really, really wonderful way. And I got out of competition with other people, and I started cooperating with them, and it's hard for me to put in words how much joy I find in the success of other people. Literally, it's almost boundless. Somebody says they're rich, or they hit the lottery, or this good thing, and it just wells up in me. I am absolutely thrilled for them. And that served me so well in my working career. Because when I became cost improvement coordinator, a new job that they created, they didn't know how this thing was going to work. They wanted me to go out and do projects. But I made up my mind, without telling them, that I was never going to do a project, not one. And I never did in the 5 years I was there. But I went out and I made sure that the people that did the projects got the recognition. And all I did, it came to me in a dream, I set up a form that required the plant manager and every person above that person to sign their cost improvement project so they would know what other people were doing, the good things that were happening. That person, all I had was my initials on page 3 of the form. I didn't even have my name on there. I wanted them to get all the recognition. And the program exploded. And pretty soon we had 200 active projects. They could only be active for a year. And we saved $10 million. And we did that for 5 years in a row. For that, I received the President's Award. Now talk about a paradox. I never did one project, and yet I got the highest award in the company as recognition because I honored other people. I loved them, I believed in them. And then when I came to Florida as a maintenance manager for Coca-Cola, I came into a situation that was a complete disaster. The maintenance manager had a breakdown, went into a mental hospital, never got out. And they had 4 or 5 supervisors they let go. They said, well, we're just going to run it with the plant engineer. But they were pretty advanced, and they had the employees interview me, which I loved. And because I got to know the employees in the maintenance organization. And they were fabulous. They were fantastic. And I said, I have got an absolute gold mine here because they knew so much. They had infrared thermography that they had put on hold, laser alignment that they stopped doing. Their computerized maintenance management system was archaic, but I had a guy with a 6th grade education that was a database genius. And everything I could think of, he could do. It was amazing. So we went from 47% efficiency in 3 years to over 97.5%. And we were drowning in money. In fact, we couldn't spend it fast enough because when your efficiencies go up, it creates a huge amount of money. And the way we did it was, every time somebody came into my office and they had a good idea, I told them do it. And then after a while, by the 3rd year, I said, if it's under $1,200 or some amount, I said, don't even come ask me, just do it. And we were doing roughly 2,000 improvements to that system each year. Not from me, but from the operators and from the maintenance people that had to talk to the operators, and they just started listening to each other and working together. And of course, I had a lot more free time. The maintenance people weren't doing maintenance because nothing was breaking down. Because we were on the leading edge of every single predictive technology out there. And I just kept sending my people to training. The same thing with safety. So, as you believe in people, as you connect with people, amazing, miraculous things will happen. And it was because I believed in them. I got the results that I expected. Now, how are we doing for time here?
8:15.
Okay. I'm going to do a couple other things. So, I have some exercises here. I'm not going to get to them, but the exercises are absolutely fantastic. Maybe I'll take the time to go over them, but unlike this week when I posted last week's talk and the written presentation notes today, this week I'm going to post these tomorrow. So just go to the NBOC website. Yes?
So I got the sense from the email that you posted more than one thing. Only one thing is public.
Yeah, you know what? My new flashy high-speed computer has a problem, and it gets raindrops in the top right corner and it goes berserk. But I found that my Dropbox had been taken out of automatic update. I was putting the files in there thinking they were automatically going in and updating. Somebody else was nice enough to tell me that, so I just moved it out of my taskbar, moved it over to automatic update, and they're in there now. So thank you for bringing that up, Paul. I appreciate it. And this presentation, as well as the audio, and the video will be up on the NBOC website. So you have lots of resources there. So, and these two exercises are directly, specifically related to the spacious present and to the point of power, and how to use that to change your beliefs and get what you want in life. And they're fantastic. They're 5 minutes a day, and you get terrific results. And I think I am going to, here we go. So we're going to do a wrap here, and then Reba and I have a little demonstration that we'd like to show you on tapping, because it's another tool we have. It's simple, easy, fast. Reba designs these 1-minute tappings. They're absolutely fantastic. They're fun, and they're easy to use. And our tappings are a little different. We tap many different ways, and sometimes we tap on a problem, but these tappings are specifically set up to align our energy to what we want and just the good. And then the other piece of that is, so if you'd bring a chair up here, hon, and sit next to me. So, this is a quote from Reba, who gave me this quote from Tony Robbins, who gets up in the morning and says,
Reba.
yeah, how can I love more today? So think about that as you're getting up and starting your day. And I'm going to, Mark, if you'd be nice enough to bring that microphone up here. Thank you. I'm going to turn this off. And then Reba and I will. Now Reba is getting ready to start a blog, and I'm telling you, these things are wildly popular. And so if you'd like to be included in that, if you'll just put your name on here and your email address, she'll make sure that that happens. So if you want to read, hon, I'll tap.
Okay.
Now, what we're getting here is an old ancient Chinese tradition following the energetic meridians of the body that help to seat an energy flow according to your focus. So with that, I'm going to hold this hand and let her do it, and then I'll tap with the other hand. I normally will tap with 2 hands.
Okay. So I'm sort of feeling like I didn't choose the right one. Because I'm trying to see how this really fits. Well, you do have to take 100% responsibility to do this tapping. And the reason I chose it is I felt like everybody was kind of struggling with maybe things in their life. Maybe there was a person. I know a lot of times with families with these intense energies, we're having stuff going on that in the past didn't go on. And I'm having something going on with someone, imagine. And so I thought about what I could tap to release that. And what I'm trying to tap here is what I think is the truth. And really, you know, we totally create our own reality. So if we create our own reality, then all the stuff that we're saying is true. So anyway, so what I'm going to do, this is like, so everybody stop and think of either, it can be a person, or maybe there's a situation in your life, something you're trying to work out with an insurance company, whatever it is. Think of something that you're frustrated with, or you're holding a grudge, or you just feel like you can't get it resolved. And think of that, and then from a scale of 1 to 10, how are you at a 10, which is like really buying into the story? Are you like, it's not too bad, maybe a 7 or maybe a 3? So anybody who's done tapping, you want to go from 1 to 10 and give it a number so you can do that. So choose something that you are concerned about and that you want to let go of. It can be a person or a situation. And so what I'm going to do, if you don't know tapping, there's different spots, and you can just, I guess we could both tap, really. Yeah, I guess he'll tap where we're each one. And so what I try to do is I make these 1-minute tappings, and I do for each one. And right here for anybody who does massage or whatever, you know, there's a lot of meridian points that go through the collarbone, and so sometimes when I tap that, I do that, and if I'm designing a tapping, I put the hardest one here because I feel like this is the most powerful place to tap because you have so many meridians. Okay, so the first one is, so am I going to say it, then you're going to say it, or what, how are we going to do this?
Well, normally when this time just you were going to say it.
I just go through the whole thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
but normally she'll say it and then I'll repeat
Well,
it.
I was going to have them tap with us.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Well, they don't get out tapping.
She's so smart. She's so smart.
Don't you think they should tap with us?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I don't know why I
so
thought
pick
anything
out your
else.
thing, and when I say toward, everybody can just in their own brain say it, or they can quietly say the name of the situation, or just bring it to mind. So I'll do it, and then you just repeat after me. So we start at the eyebrow point, and we say, I let go of the grudge.
I let go of the grudge.
I am holding toward.
I am holding toward.
I'm just going to say Jane Doe. You say your thing. Because it is also holding me.
Because it's also holding me.
Go to the side of the eye. I forgive Jane,
I forgive Jane,
not for her or him,
not for her,
Or him.
but for me,
but for me,
so I can be free.
so I can be free.
I let go.
I let go.
I am not willing to be held hostage
I am not willing to be held hostage
by the past
by the past
for another moment.
for another moment.
Under nose. I accept
I accept
Jane exactly as she is.
Jane exactly as she is.
Chin. She is a perfect mirror
She is a perfect mirror
reflecting me back to me.
reflecting me back to me.
That's one we don't like so well, huh? Okay, let's see. Oh, collarbone, that's what I left out. She is providing me
She is providing me
an opportunity to open my heart
an opportunity to open my heart
under difficult circumstances.
under difficult circumstances.
And then under your arm. She is doing the best she can
She is doing the best she can
from her level of consciousness,
from her level of consciousness,
as am I.
as am I.
And then top ahead. I choose to take the high road
I choose to take the high road
with Jane
with Jane
and live from a compassionate,
and live from a compassionate,
open heart
open heart
and from softness,
and from softness,
no matter what.
no matter what.
And then take a deep breath. So, there we go. That's a good one to go to do and to work with someone. And so what that's all about is, it's all about you. It's nothing about them.
So this will be on your blog?
Yes, I'm going to put this. I'm going to put this up, and the tappings that we did, and it's just Travels with Reba. It's easy to find. You can just Google Travels, like Travels. Travels with Reba. It's got two little hummingbirds on it.
Did we give you your email address?
Yeah, oh yeah. So let me send this around, and what I'm going to do, some of you might even be on my list. When I get it up, I was going to send out a notice
Well, so you've
because,
got
you
your
know,
email, Jane, so
people don't know. But anyway,
she's gonna send it to you.
so did everybody get this?
What is your email address?
Oh, my email address is just my name, reawakening@gmail.com.
So it's REBACAIN, reawakening
@gmail.com. And so I have in mind to put up some others. I actually wish, I have a really great one for fun. And it starts with fun or us, and I kind of wish I would have brought that one tonight. But I was thinking everybody's having a hard time, and, I should do something that,
That's a good one.
Yeah, this is a very good one because I'm finding that I'm having problems with, even if it's a political person or a city official, or this can be used for any, because it's always ourself. And some of these I can't stretch much to use it for, but anyway, so that's the lowdown on that.
Thank you.
That was great, Rita. Thank you.
Thanks, hon.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll open it up to end with questions. Any last questions or thoughts? You wanted to share something, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I've been, I don't need that. I don't need that.
Well, actually,
You want me to take it?
Take.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Paul, you need it?
I need it?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Thank you, Marilyn.
So yeah, I've been like dying I've been like biting my tongue here, because so much of what you talked about today, I went through on Monday. When I woke up Monday, the hurricane was pretty much over, you know, the bands and whatnot, still a little bit of rain and wind and whatnot. I found myself very tired the whole day.
Us too,
Yeah.
You too.
Yes.
And I spent a good, 80% of the waking day laying on the couch, drifting in and out of
Yes.
consciousness. All right? But the first couple of hours of that is I would pretty much drift out of consciousness, into semi-sleep. But then get a revelation, get something that I had to then write down. And I realized after the first one of these that I was going to keep a pad and a pencil by me for the whole day, and I had, probably after 2 hours of it, I just couldn't deal with any more of them. So I'd already gotten like four complete, as you know, I'm a speaker, so I was like wondering, I need more topics, I need more content, right? And during that Monday, I got a ton of content, a ton of complete concepts that would be, full-length speeches. One of the things that I had done on Sunday, because I was actually writing a speech on Sunday, is I looked up the frequencies of emotions. There's a established frequency chart. And I had thought what I was going to find was that love was at the top of the chart, but it's not. It's love, joy, and in the chart that I was looking at, love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. And this was Sunday as the storm was approaching. And I determined, because, during the day on Sunday, I'm trying to watch the news. Am I in zone A? Am I in zone B? Did they issue an evacuation? I've got the radio on. Whenever the heck the radio is on, all the heck I'm listening to is people creating stress. Right? People creating anxiety. That's what I listened to on the radio whenever it was on. I could only tolerate so much of it. And I turned it off. And then after reading that about the energy levels, what dawned on me is that I'm just going to be peace. I'm just going to radiate peace. And I did this with the dog, who was also beginning to drive me nuts with whining and whatnot. And I just talked to her, I just talked peace into the dog. And she went and laid down. And I maintained that peace, and I truly believe that that's what enabled me to sleep, go to bed at like 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and wake up and the storm's over. I don't know, just a lot of what you talked about tonight is what my Sunday and Monday were about. So it's really cool.
And so that's a...
I want to, when you finish, I want to talk, and then I want you to explain, okay, about the wind. Okay, so we've been having this conversation, and I know it's true, but I still have trouble grasping this. So have you told them about how you create your reality, and if you don't, did you all talk about that yet? Seth says, Seth says, to create your reality, you have to sense it with the 5 senses. You have to either hear it, or smell it, or touch it, or taste it, or hear it. Did I miss one?
Feel it.
Feel it. So if you don't do any of those 5 things, it's the energy gestalt, but it doesn't exist. And when Miles we were first talking about this, I'm just going to tell you this so it'll make sense. So I was in spin class at the Y, and so Linda Maiden-Dahl talks in this book like right now there's nothing behind me. I can look around, ooh, there's the wall. But right now, nothing exists except what I can see on both sides of me. In other words, it's only energy back there. Now, it's not energy for you all because you can see it. Do you get what I'm saying? So, and this boggles my mind. But I said, okay, well, Miles, we went to sleep. We didn't have any of those 5 senses connected with that wind. It was an energy gestalt, but we didn't collapse it out. We didn't. It was still a wave. We didn't turn it into a particle, so we did not have whatever they were 70-mile winds at our house.
Right.
I mean, it blows my mind. But Miles, isn't that just like mind-boggling? So that's why we slept. That's why the storm was pretty much a non-event.
Yeah.
We did not have the winds because we didn't experience it with our 5 senses. And so it didn't exist anyway. So I just want, and every day I say, "Now, Miles, is that how?" But it is, right?
So the important thing to keep in mind is, so we think that energy flows in through our senses, and then we interpret that as reality. But the way it really works is we constantly flow energy. The energy flows out through our senses and gets projected on the walls of our bubble. Now, sleep or not, if you believe that you're going to have massive damage from a hurricane, you'll wake up with massive damage from a hurricane. And if you get hoodwinked, like Reba did to me, I'm going to put a dome over the house.
And
To
Harry Potter's cape.
And Harry Potter's cape.
I use it a lot.
To protect us. So, she's done this Houdini stuff for me for so long that I completely believe it. Well, when she says there was no wind, I believe there was no wind. I mean, we never woke up, we never heard it, and when we got up in the morning, everything was honky-dory. So, if you're having a problem, now that you have Reba's email address.
But don't you think that's amazing? How could it be that there's no wind? I mean, there's no objective world. It just boggles my mind. Has to be true though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Paul too.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say real quick, we had a conflict over it. I kept saying, it's gonna pass. Everyone's like, but look at the news, it's coming right for us. I'm like, it's not coming, because I live on a boat. It can't come. So it's not coming. And I kept saying it, and Eric was so upset and so worked up because of work and, so much riding on him with the water and everything. And I kept saying, stop focusing on it. And then Clay sent out that thing.
Yes.
From Abraham.
Yeah.
And I sent it to him. And after he listened to it, like all that fear and pushing it, came to him, and it was like, okay, now I understand. I'm like, but I've been saying it for a week now, and you won't listen to me. But as soon as he says that, of course he listens to that. But it is what you believe, because everyone around us kept saying, oh, it's coming. Even when it was turning, the friend of ours that we were staying with, Eric was stuck at work, but Josh and I were with him, and he kept saying, it's coming. Do you see it's coming for? I was like, well, you relax and turn the news off, because that was the big thing.
Really?
Yes.
And just real
Turn the
quick,
news off.
today I see a post on Facebook about Jose coming towards us. Every report I have, I watch Noah a lot because of living on the boat. It's not even, it's
Right,
like,
yeah.
it's over here and it's way up here
Yeah,
and it's not
yeah.
coming. But because people believe it so much, it's just crazy what people like feed into. And what you were saying about, I'm a firm believer, if I hang around with negative people, I'm just terribly negative. No matter if I try to talk myself out of it and it doesn't matter, but it happens. And like when they stopped doing the GTS, it was like, okay, now I don't have all those positive people anymore. What am I going to do?
I'm going to come here on Sunday.
I'd like to share, I was up in Michigan the week before, and then I got back on Sunday, and somebody said, well, there's a hurricane out in the ocean, and so on Tuesday, people were getting more concerned. And I just went inside myself, and I connected, and I said, I'm going to be okay, it's not going to affect me. And so Thursday, I had friends of mine, they evacuated, they left, they were in Alabama, they left there today to come back and whatnot. And so I'm also house sitting for the summer in Dunedin, which I've done for several years. And my apartment's up in Hudson. And so, anyway, so it was Friday, and I hadn't been up there since before I'd gone to Michigan, and I went to go up and get my mail and do some things. And so I went up there on Friday, and was only there a couple of hours, and then at 5:30, they came banging on my door and said, "We're being evacuated." I go, "Oh, really?" I go, "Okay." So I just came by, brought myself back to Dunedin, and my friends that own the house, they've been watching the news, and he says, he hasn't slept all night. I slept like Friday night, I went to bed, I slept like 8 hours, and then that was Saturday night, and then Sunday night, when it finally was here, I went to bed at 11:30, and when I laid down, because I wasn't hearing anything, and all of a sudden I was laying down, it was really quiet, and I heard this howling wind, and my mind went, "Oh, isn't that interesting? The last time I heard howling wind was when I lived in California, and we were up in the mountains, and there was a wind." But I said, nothing happened then, nothing's going to happen now either. So I just fell back asleep. I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I heard no noise at all. Went to the bathroom, went back to bed, woke up at 7 in the morning, and it was over. And it was like, so it never really touched me. And he had basically no damage at all to his house or anything. So
next year he's gonna have to pay you extra
yeah, I
to
know.
be there in the hurricane.
Okay. But it was just interesting because he said he hadn't slept in 3 days, and now he's sick.
Oh,
And
my.
it's like, again, it was last Tuesday. I just went in and checked, and I just knew that I would be
Yeah.
okay.
When you buy into the fear, when you buy into the fear, it racks your body. It makes it hard to. I'll talk on this one. But when you buy into the fear, it incapacitates your body and makes it extremely difficult for it to do its job, which is to heal you and keep you healthy and well. It can't get around your beliefs. So if you have a belief like about aging, well, that's going to show up, or decrepitude, that's going to show up. But apart from that, if your mind is focused on things that make you anxious and upset, it dramatically interferes with your body's ability to take care of itself, because you put it in a state of limbo. What does it do? Does it get ready to fight or flee? And it can't maintain its balance properly.
Don't you find that there's like sort of an awakening process going with the eclipse or the hurricanes and the earthquakes in Mexico, which no one's talked about, which has killed thousands of people?
Really?
That there's a connection?
Yes, and Reba and I felt it. And I saw somebody on Facebook today that said it. I personally could feel a huge energetic change in me between the eclipse and the hurricane and the coronal mass ejections, the solar flares, and there was another thing too. Not even including, but I was thinking about Mexico, and what's happening is our reality is experiencing a lot more energy.
Well, Texas was the other thing.
Oh, thank you, Harvey, yeah. Joe, you were going to say something?
Getting back to Irma,
Is that turned on?
it's on.
No, it's red.
Oh, okay, good.
You need to hold it up though.
Ice cream, you gotta make it green.
Can you hear
It's
me
gotta be
better?
green.
No, the light has to be green.
No, the light's red when it's on.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
This is his.
yeah, this is mine.
Okay.
Yeah, mine's not
I
as
don't
nice
think
as
it's
this.
working.
No.
I don't think
Oh,
so.
it doesn't, yeah, maybe the batteries run out.
Okay, well, I really
Yeah,
can speak without it, but the night that the storm came through, I did hear it, and I felt it whipping around the house. But I had made a declarative statement in union with the divine within me, and that statement was, no damage to my house or to my subdivision. Subdivision is a senior community. And sometimes you can let go of that when you hear the winds and the batter that occurred around the house at that time. It was so loud, I had to put earplugs in to go to sleep. And so it's important that if you are aligned with the divine within, and you make a statement, a declarative statement of truth, to hold on to that no matter what you sense around you.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. You get what you focus on. So if you can hold that focus, it makes all the difference. And with that, we'll call it a wrap. Thank you all.
Thank you.